is pregnant, and according to her cousin, bringing her back home would not only ensure her safety, but also protect the life and well-being of her unborn child.
Cassie's pregnant. She may be vulnerable. We don't know what happening to her. We just heard people saying they found her for people to forget about her. Everybody do things in life already they regret. But I'm her cousin. I just want everybody share the picture, share information, give us a call a police station. Is a sister in need, a cousin, a daughter. So I just want the public to know. We're trying to look for her. Don't hide her. Whoever that have her, just let her go.
Police have launched an investigation following the report that a woman has gone missing. The officers actively working to determine her whereabouts. Family members say they remain resolute and will continue with their search, vowing not to rest until she is safely found.
If they have any contact you want to reach me at, 718-7033, or call the nearest police station. We want some proof she's alive. We just need some answers for us to be at ease. Because me going to work, I have to be worrying about if I'm going to get a call, something bad happening to her.
HOT7 TV News, Josiah Bisset reporting.
As uncertainty deepens over rising tensions between the United States and Venezuela, St. Lucians have been waiting for clarity. Now the Prime Minister has spoken, offering his first public signals on what the unfolding situation could mean for the island and the wider Caribbean.
St. Lucia's Prime Minister Philip J. Pierre has finally broken his silence on the escalating geopolitical tensions between the United States and Venezuela, addressing growing public concern over the potential fallout for the Caribbean. In his remarks, the Prime Minister acknowledged that developments in South America are already producing ripple effects across the region for small island states, particularly exposed to external shocks.
Events in Venezuela have reverberated across the Caribbean, disrupting air travel, affecting trade and tourism, and creating unsettling concerns for small, open economies like ours. In response to these recent geopolitical events, St. Lucia has reaffirmed its commitment to peace and the principles of international law that protect all nations, large and small.
Pierre reaffirmed that through CARICOM, the island continues to support dialogue as the preferred path to stability. The Prime Minister also used the opportunity to clarify St. Lucia's position on its engagement with the United States on the possible transfer of certain third country nationals similar to islands like Antigua and Barbuda, Dominica and St. Kitts and Nevis. The Cabinet of Ministers has approved the non-binding Memorandum of Understanding with the Government of the United States, which Pierre emphasized does not compel St. Lucia to act and does not supersede national laws.
This agreement is non-binding and is at the complete discretion of both governments. The MOU establishes a framework for cooperation and does not trigger any immediate transfer and future engagements. The MOU is orderly, transparent, and consistent with the laws, policies, and national interests of St. Lucia.
Seeking to address widespread speculation, Prime Minister Pierre assured citizens that the agreement has no connection to U.S. visa access for St. Lucians.
Let me assure St. Lucians that as of today, there has been no information given to the government of St. Lucia regarding any changes in the United States visa policy for St. Lucia and St. Lucians wishing to travel to the United States.
The Prime Minister concluded by urging calm and responsible discourse, cautioning against the spread of misinformation on social media. He reiterated that St. Lucia retains full sovereignty under the MOU and can disengage at any time, while pledging that the government will continue to act in the best interest of the nation as it navigates an evolving and uncertain geopolitical landscape. Reporting for the HOT7 TV News, I am Jasmine Duncan.
Prime Minister Philip J. Pierre has urged citizens to view recent developments within a wider global context, noting that international events often shape local realities. Responding to a renewed statement from the European Union on the safety of countries' citizenship by investment program, the Prime Minister reaffirmed that St. Lucia's program remains secure. He stressed that the CIP is well regulated and will continue to operate safely despite ongoing international scrutiny.
The European Union has released a new report identifying citizens by investment programs as a potential security risk by prompting discussions about restricting visa-free entry into EU countries. In response, Prime Minister Philip J. Pierre acknowledged the concern, but emphasized that St. Lucia must work alongside other CIP nations by signing a memorandum of understanding to safeguard the continuation of visa-free access.
It's a concern to me, but all we can do is do what is within our control, and what is within our control is ensure that we've signed that MOU with the governments of the CIP countries. We right now there's a training in biometrics in Washington next week. We are attending. We put in all the due diligence that we can to ensure that our program is clean and it's transparent. We do all we can do, but we can't control the EU. We have no control. All we can do is put our house in order.
He further indicated that the issue is far more extensive than it may appear, and that the government is doing everything possible to support the initiative. Central to the effort, he said, is persuading the European Union that the matter has significant consequences for the economic stability of several island nations.
This year, do you know there are countries in the region where the CIP revenue is about 60%. It has decreased to 60%. It was more before. 60% of their revenue. So there is no need for us to grow. In St. Lucia, it's not 60%. St. Lucia is about 10% of our revenue. About 19%. So St. Lucia is not as dependent. And that is why St. Lucia joined with these other countries. Because we have to be in this thing together. So it's we should be trying to convince the EU that what's happening is unfair to us.
The Prime Minister said the country is at a critical moment, stressing the need to safeguard national interests as external developments could affect daily life and economic stability. He urged citizens not to view recent reports as purely negative, but rather as an opportunity to judge how effectively the government responds to challenges and works to resolve them. For HOT7 TV News, Josiah Bisset reporting.
This is the HOT7 TV Midday News Edition. There's more after the break.
When the rain stops, what remains? St. Lucia's dry season is becoming harsher and water is running out faster than ever before. Every drop is precious, but without careful management, we risk losing it all. We must act now. Conserve water every day. Fix leaks. Store rainwater. And use only what you need. WASCO is working on securing our water, but we can't do it alone. Your actions today ensure a better tomorrow. Together, we can weather the dry season and work towards a future with water for all. Water is life. Secure our water and secure our future. For more information, visit wascostlucia.com.
The Super 6 jackpot is now $210,000. Have you played?
Looking for the best way to advertise? Stop searching. HOT7 TV gives you more reach, more impact, and more value. Get your business in front of the right audience and watch your sales soar. Don't miss out. Call 452-6040 today and take advantage of our exclusive advertising packages. HOT7 TV, smart advertising for smart businesses.
Welcome back. The Water and Sewage Company Inc. WASCO convened a media briefing on Monday to update residents on what lies ahead for St. Lucia's water resources, highlighting concerns over limited precipitation, emerging water shortages, and the effects on farming, household supply, and wildfire prevention.
A drier than normal wet season has caused St. Lucia to enter a dry season marked by significant rainfall deficits and heightened drought risk. That is according to Met Services Director Virgil Saltabus during a press briefing held by the Water and Sewage Company WASCO and geared towards keeping citizens abreast with conditions associated with the current dry season. Saltabus noted that the 2025 wet season delivered roughly 34% less rain than average, leaving reservoirs and water systems under stress heading into 2026. Observations from December 2025 show a continued shortfall in rainfall, with key sites such as the Uranora International Airport and George F. L. Charles Airport recording deficits of 41% and 28% respectively. Climatic factors including elevated night temperatures, increased evaporation, atmospheric stability from a persistent North Atlantic subtropical high, and shifts in El Niño southern oscillation patterns are contributing factors to reduced rainfall and rising water demand. Saltabus warns that short-term drought conditions could persist for 3 to 6 months, while long-term projections for the next 12 months indicate continued strain on rivers, streams, reservoirs, and groundwater.
So because of all of this notable lack of rainfall activity, the lack of the amount of rainfall that we've received during the wet season and start of the dry season, this has led to our predictions so far based on current observations showing that short-term drought and long-term drought is evolving on the island. So short-term drought, we're looking at a period of about 3 months to 6 months. Shows that it indicates that there is an evolving drought situation, most likely continuing since we're starting our dry season from December and going into the peak dry season, which is between February, March, and April. That conditions are going to be expected to be less favorable for rainfall activity, and the drying will continue, and therefore an evolving drought situation is most likely. The 2025 wet season delivered roughly 34% less rain than average, because the wet season typically provides 70% of the island's annual water. Reservoirs entered in 2026 in a stress state with very low resilience for a prolonged drought.
The drought is expected to impact multiple sectors, including agriculture, with increased soil moisture stress and a higher risk of bushfires, which could also affect air quality. Cautiously optimistic that light showers observed on Thursday, January 8th, Sunday, January 11th, and Monday morning, January 12th, could signal a silver lining. Jason Ernest, director of the Water Resource Management Authority, also expressed a serious concern over the low levels in local rivers and reservoirs.
Normally, December and January tend to be the wetter months of the dry season. And we see that trend extending into the dry season, where in December and January we haven't gotten the rains that we've expected. And what that means is, from the wet season, WASCO has been sustained by our base flows, but those base flows have been low flows, right? And since we're continuing into that dry trend, is just going to diminish and diminish. And looking at our river systems across the island, we're seeing discharge rates that we normally see towards the end of March in a good year, right? So that is very troublesome, very worrying to the agency and the ministry at large.
WASCO also reports that water levels at John Compton Dam have shown slight fluctuations between November 2024 and the start of the current dry season. In the northern system, Output has decreased by approximately 10%, equivalent to about 16 million gallons of water, while the southern system has experienced a 10 to 15% reduction. Compared to the same period in 2024, production has fallen even more sharply, with an overall 20% drop, accounting for around 29 million gallons. For households, this translates to lower water pressure and increased likelihood of service interruptions throughout the dry season. In response to this, Ernest encourages water collection.
What we normally tell persons, or what we want to make persons aware of, is that in the months of December going into January, where I mentioned that those are the wettest months of the dry season, that's the time to more or less start to fill all your rainwater harvesting systems, as well as your potable water supply from Wasco. So as we move into the dry season and we have incidents of rainfall, basically what it is a recharge of your rainwater tanks. Is basically you get a top up. So every time it rains, you capture that water. It's immediate and it's available to use, because a number of activities we do on a household level don't require potable water. Rainwater harvesting can be used for more than 50% or 60, 70% of what is done, talking on a household level. It could be for commercial or any other business as well.
In the short to medium term, Wasco is considering viable alternatives to mitigate the effects of the dry season.
Right now, at the John Compton Dam, the spillway has stopped overflowing. Normally, this would have happened in March in the past, maybe 6-7 years ago. This would have normally started in March, but this has started in January. So it means that this dry season will be a tough one for us. But our job is to manage whatever reserves that we have to ensure that residents do get a supply of water and that they are not without water for too long. I know there are some cases where some residents are without water for a few weeks, but we try to do trucking, as the slide would indicate. We do trucking, we have to do community valving, and we have to repair leaks as quickly as possible. We also count on residents and customers to actually inform us if there is a leak anywhere, and we will try our best to repair this at the soonest, because the more water we are able to save, that's more water we have available for consumers. Now, there are certain things that are just beyond us. Control of the weather is beyond us. The amount of rainfall that the reservoir is able to collect is beyond us. What is within our control is to manage whatever reserves that we have. Now, you would know that the John Compton Dam has not yet been dredged. We are still at a loss of 50% of its storage capacity. So whatever balance that remains, we have to manage this to ensure that it lasts us during the dry season, or for the period of the dry season, and to be replenished during the rainy season. But as has been indicated earlier, the dry seasons are going to be getting worse. We can see from previous trends that every single year it gets drier and drier.
Looking ahead, Anthony emphasized that it is now time for the island to explore large-scale sustainable solutions, including the conversion of seawater into fresh water.
If a country that's growing with so many hotels and businesses, especially in the north, what solutions do we have for that? Okay? So we have desalination. I know this is something a lot of people don't want to hear, but we have now come to the point where this is a must, and this must be a common feature in our conversations. We do not have a choice anymore. We have to go the desalination route. Countries that once had rivers like St. Kitts, Antigua, even though Barbados never really had rivers, but they had massive underground storage in terms of the aquifers. All these countries have gone the route of desalination. Folks, we don't have a choice. We have to feature desalination as part of our production system. Now, the desalination, although it's a much more expensive process, but there is something that it does that surface waters do not do. That is, it provides a degree of resilience that is irrespective of whatever climate event that happens.
WASCO will also undertake 3 additional projects, including the rehabilitation of at least 6 filters at the Feebles treatment plant, replacing them with new filters, thereby reducing the frequency of backwashing. Secondly, the continuation of the Northern Pipeline installation from the Bonte Gap to the Grosley Gap. And thirdly, the raw water pipeline project, which will see the replacement of a 5-kilometer section of severely ruptured pipelines which carry water from the John Compton Dam to the Feebles treatment plant and then to the northern network. The water authorities are therefore urging households to conserve water, repair leaks, utilize rainwater harvesting, and exercise fire safety precautions, emphasizing that coordinated management and public cooperation are essential to mitigating the socio-economic effects of this extreme dry season. Reporting for the HOT7 TV News, I am Jasmine Duncan.
St. Lucia's ambitions on the international sprinting stage are gaining momentum as a young J.D. Emmanuel heads over to university in the U.S. and is set to train amongst an elite group of track stars.
St. Lucia is steadily strengthening its presence on the global sprinting stage, with government officials pointing to a growing pipeline of elite female athletes poised to make an international impact. Education, Youth Development, Sports and Digital Transformation Minister Honorable Kenson Kazemi has highlighted recent developments as evidence that the island is moving closer to assembling one of the world's most competitive women's sprint relay teams. Central to that optimism is Labrador native J.D. Emmanuel, whose next step will see her take up a scholarship at the University of Texas, a globally respected athletics powerhouse. Emmanuel made history as the first St. Lucian to capture a character game sprint title and has since established herself as one of the country's brightest track prospects, earning multiple regional podium finishes and national accolades at the junior level. At the Austin-based institution, Emmanuel will join fellow St. Lucian sprinter Naomi London and train within a program previously attended by Olympic champion Julian Alfred. The opportunity is expected to further refine Emmanuel's technical development while deepening St. Lucia's pool of internationally trained sprinters. Minister Kazemi notes that this convergence of talent signals a promising future for St. Lucia's women's sprint relay ambitions as the country continues to invest in youth development and high-performance sport. Reporting for the HOT7 TV News, I am Jasmine Duncan.
An era shaped by duty, resilience, and remembrance has come to an end following the passing of Corporal Reginald Sherabin, a figure whose voice and presence carried St. Lucia's World War II history into the present day. Jasmine Duncan tells us more.
Bring back my body to me, bring back, oh bring back my body to me.
St. Lucians began the new year in mourning following confirmation that Corporal Reginald Sherabin, the island's last surviving veteran of the Second World War, died on December 31st, 2025 at the age of 101. His passing marks the end of a living connection to a generation of St. Lucians who answered the call of duty during one of the most defining periods in global history. Widely respected as a custodian of wartime memory, Sherabin embodied the sacrifice, discipline, and resilience of those who served between 1939 and 1945, both abroad and at home. Enlisting during the height of the war years, Sherabin's military journey spanned several key postings across the region, from service with South Caribbean Forces to the Royal Artillery in Trinidad and later the Royal Army Medical Corps. His experience reflected the diverse and demanding roles undertaken by Caribbean servicemen. He later served in Guyana at the historic Tacoma Battle School before returning to St. Lucia, where he completed his service as a corporal at the Windward Islands Battalion headquarters prior to his honorable discharge in 1947. His wartime record placed him among a small but significant cadre of St. Lucians whose contributions extended well beyond the battlefield. In civilian life, Corporal Sherabin remained a commanding presence within the veteran community. As a former president of the St. Lucia Ex-Service Legion and an active figure within the Royal Commonwealth Ex-Service League, he became the heartbeat of local remembrance efforts, ensuring that welfare and legacy of ex-service personnel were never forgotten. Known for his sharp wit, commanding voice, and larger-than-life personality, he was a fixture at Remembrance Day commemorations, often leading war songs and reflections that brought history vividly to life. In his later years, he worked to document his life in a memoir expected to be released posthumously, further underscoring his commitment to education and remembrance. As condolences pour in for his daughter and caregiver, the nation reflects on the loss of a man whose presence kept St. Lucia's war history tangible, personal, and alive. Reporting for the HOT7 TV News, I am Jasmine Duncan.
We've come to the end of the Midday News edition for today, Tuesday, January 13th, 2026. Join us again at 6:45 for the HOT7 TV Nightly News. Until then, have a wonderful day.